Yeah.
I think we have a few minutes before we'll be able to start. Yeah, no worries. Was I supposed to print out the photos to the Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure.
Just started trickling in.
Thank goodness. Oh, no, the electric station. Not one at night.
Yeah, no.
Right.
pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, I will do a roll call. Megan Doyle.
Present.
Scott Vermender.
Present.
Tracy Irby.
Here.
Tom Koba.
Here.
Lauren Mahler.
Here.
Una Petrowski.
Here.
Christina Preet.
Here.
Michael Smith.
Here.
Cindy Wolf-Boyton.
Here.
And Susan Glennon here. Thank you to all 10 present. All right, so we have discussion, first budget workshop for discussion of the superintendent's proposed budget. Thank you, board members, for sending in your questions, your initial questions. We have 33 questions so far, so we will go through them one by one tonight. We'll go question by question. We'll get a summary from administration, and then we'll see if board members have any additional questions on that or discussion on that reply. We'll go as far as we feel we can or want to. We'll see where the night takes us, where it takes us, and go from there. So, Dr. Kutaya.
Thank you, Ms. Glennon and Board of Ed members. We are happy to proceed in the fashion that we have in previous years, where we will go one question at a time, a different member of cabinet, depending on the topic. We'll take the question, we'll read the question and the answer, as you see it on paper, into the record, and then we are happy to discuss, okay? I'm going to hand things over to Mr. Brennan and move that podium because it's bothering me. Did it bother anybody else?
Yes,
It's just
thank
sitting
you.
there?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Dr. Ms. Glennon, members of the board. Like Dr. Kapaya said, we are going to go question by question. One of the things that we did change in here as well is combining questions that were similar in nature. So if we heard questions that were of the same vein as another one, we subcategorize that one right below the previous one. And what we'll do to make sure that you guys know that your question was answered is when that member of administration is reading that question, they'll also read the sub-question as well, so that those are kind of branched together, and then we'll give that answer, and then if there are follow-up questions, we're happy to answer, or if there's something that we need more information on, we can get back to you on that.
Thank you.
And we are happy to start out with Mr. Altieri for our first question.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan, members of the board. So the first question that was asked by the Board of Education is, please give cost estimates for the 3 areas of system improvements noted in the executive summary on pages 3 and 4. As Dr. Kutaya had it organized, we broke it down into the 3 major categories. So category 1 was increase access to high-quality learning experiences for all students. So I'll kind of go bullet by bullet and just review the costs with you there. So regarding world language, the assessment of proficiency and performance in Spanish in grades 5, 8, 11, and 12 has a total cost of $9,600. American Sign Language, for us to bring that in at the middle school level, would be a total cost of $66,181. Additional comprehensible readers for middle school world language classes at a total cost of $4,000. The middle school world language digital textbooks and resources or resources at a total cost of $12,000. Middle school social studies texts at a total cost of $5,500. A new textbook for the medical mysteries course at the high school level with a total cost of $3,100. Digital textbooks for the high school statistics and calculus courses at a total cost of $35,270, and that's for both courses. Software for personal finance at a total cost of $6,000, and that's at the high school level. New textbooks for AP U.S. Government and Politics, as well as for AP Environmental Science, at a total cost of $19,332. And then we've broke down for you all of the curriculum that is due here to be written in the initial implementation phase. So I'll run through those right now. K-1 Health, $3,984. Middle School Career and Technical Education, $7,702. Middle School English Language Arts, $1,382. The humanities enrichment at the middle school, $1,328. Middle school Spanish and French, $8,857. Middle school social studies, $2,304. The high school math, core math sequence, algebra, algebra 2, and geometry at $8,067. High school English, main English sequence, English 1, 2, and 3, as well as the honors ELA course, $4,428. High school Spanish, culture, and conversation, $1,181. And then a variety of high school social studies courses, including world history, U.S. history, civics and American government, crime and punishment, ancient history, anthropology, economics, global human geography and culture, as well as the Model UN course, at a grand total for all of those courses at $14,172. Middle and high school musical instrument upgrades at a total cost of $15,759. New foreign band uniforms at a total cost of $72,000. And 2 teachers in residence to increase diversity of the teaching staff at a total cost of $72,000. Moving into category B, which is the expanding our career pathway learning opportunities aligned to industry need. We have 3D printers for each of the middle school for the new engineering design technical education course with a total cost of $30,690. Digital equipment for the law journalism class at a total cost of $8,686. Digital equipment for the foreign technical education class at $4,389. And the addition of an esports team at the high school with a total cost of $36,000. And I will now turn it over to Mr. Giancola, who will talk about category C.
Thank you, Mr. Aguirre and Board of Education members. For item C, ensuring infrastructure and equipment support for effective operations. Computer and server replacements, we're at $340,572. Security cameras and computers, $95,623. And an additional firewall for increased cybersecurity at $38,140.
Thank you. I think you missed mobile desks and chairs for middle school English language arts and math. Is that someplace else?
Yeah, it is.
The cost?
Yes, it's under the CapEx expenditures. Let me find the page. It's on one line. It's 286-ish.
Was part of,
We copy and pasted from the emails you sent us. So
well, this was in your, it was in your list of increased access to high-quality learning experiences for all students. So it's in between software for personal finance and new textbooks. So it's, you just.
All right, we'll
just
get back
got
to you.
overlooked, that's all.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
fine. You'll get it to us.
Yep.
I'd like to have that answered. Any questions from the board? Ms. Doyle?
Thank you. First question on American Sign Language at the middle school. Is that a new EFT or like a reimagined person with a EFT?
It's a new.
It's a new FTE. Yeah, that would be shared across the 3 middle schools.
Okay.
With potential of additional FTEs in the future, depending on if the interest among students grows in American Sign Language, but that could also be offset by the decreased interest or the redistribution of children taking world language across the 3 languages. But surprise for 25-26, we're thinking about introducing yet another language. So somewhere along the way, we can redistribute FTEs and or add FTEs in the category of world language at the middle school.
So you just mentioned that this ASL teacher would be shared across the 3 middle schools.
Yeah.
How does that affect relationships building in that framework of having a teacher move between 3 middle schools and not spending the full time there?
Well, that is more challenging, but we have the practice of shared staff across the district, and it's a reality of education. It's not Milford specific. And it has a lot to do with enrollment, number of sections that a teacher would teach. And we've had this conversation numerous times, and there is a plan, I think almost around the corner, by looking at specialists and their FTEs at each building. But if you were just to simply roll up FTEs and make teachers whole at a school, the other challenge is then the inefficient use of their schedule and lower class sizes in a really artificial way. So if you were to make this like other specialists full-time at a school, you could end up having class sizes of single digits. That's not efficient. And you could also end up having teachers with gaps in their schedule where they're not seeing children. And that's not an appropriate use of FTE. So the intention of building relationships is done differently. It takes likely a different timeline. But I don't think it prevents teachers from developing personal relationships because they have quality time with kids inside of a classroom. That's not going to be, I think, sacrificed. But of course, there's a holistic nature that needs to be considered, but that's the nature of schooling. Like in the area of strings, there's like a 0.2 here and a 0.1 here and a 0.3 here, but there aren't enough students taking strings to warrant a full-time strings teacher at every school. That would be an inappropriate, unprofessional means of using FTEs, actually.
So this kind of fits in the same area of, so in an elementary school, it's music broadly.
They're general music.
General music, and then in the middle school, we start into the more specialization of
We're
strings.
starting to, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so that's would make sense of having a split amongst those, because there's only so many students. There's not the need for a full-time strings teacher, or in this case, a full-time American Sign Language teacher.
Not yet. Not yet. Yeah.
In theory.
And we have other examples of that, of course. We've this board and previous boards and I have talked about full-time specialists at the elementary school. But it's a goal of ours to do that. But it's irresponsible of me to roll up simply to 1.0 across 8 and not have an academic plan to use them. So we're working, and we've talked. I feel like we're going all over the place right now. Sorry. We've talked about enrichment for all concept at the elementary school, where there is enrichment opportunities for learning for all students. And we imagine that this is just the dream right now, that we would roll up specialist FTEs in order to facilitate a school-wide enrichment model. That's actually a thing in the world of gifted and talented education. So you can check it out. UConn is a leading researcher in this area. But we have discussions, and actually I think there's a meeting on my calendar for next month, to talk about how can we attain a school-wide enrichment model that benefits all kids and stretches all kids in a gift or a talent that we know all kids have. So it's inappropriate for Mr. Altieri or I to propose a rolling up of FTEs unless there's a programmatic plan for it, in addition to the need of solidifying and strengthening relationships. So I think it has to be an and not an or.
Great, thank you.
If I could get back to the question on the ASL, am I correct? I believe, hearing at a recent meeting, there was a survey of students, and ASL was very widely
Yes.
requested, right?
Yes.
It's very popular.
ASL and Mandarin were at the top.
Yep.
Okay, very good, thank you. Other questions on this? Ms. Doyle, I'm sorry.
It's okay. We're going all over, it's fine.
Try to keep on task.
In section C, in ensuring infrastructure and equipment, I can't remember correctly, last year, did we have to delay certain things because of budget cuts? And are we catching up on the schedule here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And so that would be in the computers and servers and replacements area.
Correct.
So if this amount brings us current, right back on schedule for where we should be.
On schedule?
Still a little bit behind, but for the
Yeah.
most part on schedule.
It certainly would not put us on schedule for security cameras and computers. We're just chipping away at that.
Okay.
We have
So-
some cameras that are going on like 8 to 10 years, and we're at end of life, and it's just an expensive, cyclical investment. So I wouldn't say that we're all caught up. I don't want to portray.
Right.
In the world of replacement cycles and technology, the word caught up, I think, is not relevant.
Right. We are
Okay.
minimally competent.
There's an every year investment to stay caught up, I think, in the world of technology. Is that fair, Mr. Giancola?
Yes, absolutely.
And then in the same vein of security cameras and computers, nothing that we are currently safe, in line with safety standards and where we are, and these are continuing upgrades as technology improves and going forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, so hopefully 4 quick questions, and thank you for this. Just to make sure, and I don't need the breakdowns, but the variables that go into the costs are probably I just want to make sure I'm understanding it right. So you have some of the capital cost improvements, some of the staffing, and also some of the vendor costs. Is that a fair kind of?
In general, in this category?
Yeah, generally those are-
Resources, people, sometimes we have to pay people for time.
Right.
Like writing curriculum.
Yeah,
Technology, materials, yes.
cool.
So the costs are spread across the budget items, is that
Right,
you're-
yeah, and
Yeah.
like understanding that, I mean, what goes into this 72,000 for new uniforms, right? Like that's a capital cost, and there are different things across the budget, so that's the, I just
That's
want
an
to make sure.
easier one, like a uniform,
Right.
you're gonna buy $72,000 worth of
Exactly.
uniforms. But under curriculum, it's a mixture of paying teachers to come in after school, in the summer,
That's kind of what I thought,
buying
yeah.
some pilot materials to test out,
Right.
things like
So
that.
The point is that you've done a lot of homework to get to these numbers, and I don't really need to know the breakdown of variables within them, just making sure I understand the big picture variables that comprise those numbers.
Great.
The other one is, so, and again, forgive me for questions that I'm sure I'll know in a few years, but, so if we're doing ASL in the middle school, do we also have an ASL program in the high school?
We do not currently.
Okay, so if that goes well, then we can maybe look at that in future years if folks take a liking to it, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's, right now, I'm working on my long-range planning, so that's obviously an element is for us to take a look at world language programming in its entirety and talk about both middle school and high school, but also how elementary school's feeding up to that.
Awesome. And then with ASL specifically, are there ways in which you can get a certification or other kind of things is that within within possible reach of a high school? When you graduate high school, right, and obviously every language is different, but the idea that, is ASL one of those where we could maybe move to a point where you could get some type of degree or certification that allows a high school graduate who's
An industry standard certification.
Right, or something like that allows them opportunities for employment.
I think if it's there, we'll do it.
Okay.
I know that the seal of biliteracy is a stamp of honor on a transcript, so that would be something that we would seek. And I'll continuously expand on Mr. Autieri's answers because he's only been here 4 months. But so I have said publicly that my dream is actually at high school that a student can take any language they want, and that I'd really like to seek a technological solution for that, so that we're not just limited by a full-time teacher who has mastery of that language that is in front of kids. I don't know what that looks like. Like, that's just the dream. But the good problem we have right now, and it is a bit of a conundrum in that we have kids coming through the elementary pipeline, entering middle school with 6 years of Spanish under their belt. And sure, they can continue to take Spanish. We want to give that children that option. But the question we have now is, what does middle school world language look like because of that? Actually, we're asking, what does 4th and 5th grade world language look like? Like, how many years of Spanish does a child really need? Can we start to diversify in 4th grade? Could that also be like a school-wide enrichment opportunity? Like, there are a lot of questions around that. And then, of course, Mr. Smith, what's the implication for high school? Do we, like, the consideration of Mandarin and German have come up as well? Like, and how small is a class size okay? Like, we have to be okay, and this is something I speak with our city partners, that in the AP world, we are okay with like 6, 7, 8 kids in a class. We're gonna run that because it's an accelerated high-level course. So even though enrollment is dropping, we might be actually expanding programming and adding FTEs because we're expanding programming, despite enrollment and the number of kids sitting in a classroom. So those are opportunities in front of us that we hope to grapple with, actually. And that's a little bit on the curriculum cycle. Like phase 1 is review, research, R&D kind of area. And that's what we're really trying to do in the world language area, that we have to really do a deep dive in R&D right now there.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Other questions on this, Ms. Wolf-Whiten?
I have a couple of questions. First of all, excluding the AP textbooks, if you look at the middle school world language digital ones and also the high school statistics and calculus digital textbooks, those two lines for digital books are much more expensive than the print ones. I just wondered, for those who might be questioning why we're spending so much on digital, do we have an answer?
Would you like me to? So a lot of the digital textbook licenses now are multi-year contracts. So in the reality, you pay for it all up front, but you get the subscription for a prolonged period of time. So a lot of the companies either go a 3-year or 6-year program in terms of the purchase cost. A lot of the upper level math courses are logically just very expensive in terms of renewal and purchase, so the costs are typically higher per student text. And then I know you had mentioned the other one, I think was the world language digital textbook. Same thing, I think it's just a multi-year contract piece.
And the rationale for using, I imagine there's really good reasons for using digital textbooks rather than paper ones.
There is, the assessment options are a lot more diverse in terms of what teachers can do with the resources. A lot of times there's an interactivity component, simulations that are accompanied with the textbooks that are digital that you can't get in a physical textbook. So it expands the opportunities for teachers in the classroom.
And I know when you go into college, so often the digital's your only choice as well.
Yeah, a lot of the higher ed institutions are moving towards digital options and things like that.
I think it's awesome that we're doing that. The other thing that I found really exciting was the addition of an esports team. I know as someone who has a child who is a big e-gamer, and I have seen several of his friends get huge scholarships, college scholarships, because of their e-gaming abilities. This is really great, and I'm just wondering if one of you can talk a little bit about the decision to begin an esports team.
Sure. So, I mean, it's always been something that has been, as far as our tech department, it's been something that we always wanted to do. And we always got some pushback saying, oh, kids aren't going to be active and stuff like that. But we've made a partner with Affinity Esports, and they actually they take breaks during the middle of their thing and go do stretches and then come back. So there's a whole piece to that we're going to bring into place. But like you said, I mean, it's a $1 billion industry at this point that there's money to be made out there with it, and if they kids get practice like football, they can get scholarships. So that was our main rationale for bringing that in.
It's a great community partnership too.
Yeah.
I think I talked about Affinity Sports being part, just moving into Milford. Actually, I have to give all the credit to Julie Nash. She's the one that brought it to my attention and quote-unquote strong-armed me into doing a one-on-one with Mark Kilpatrick, the co-founder of Affinity Sports. And to add to Lewis, our kids have asked for this. They were pretty strong in their advocacy last year, and they were like very informed when they dialogued with me about this. So very impressive young people we have, of course. We're starting a club this year, official sport, hopefully competitive sport next year. I think I'm so glad, Ms. Wolf-Whiten, and you're excited, but I'm already being met with a little bit of the rolling of eyes by some people who don't understand why we would engage in an esports team. Like, I literally got the roll of eyes and really? In the last 24 hours. So I think that there's some education that needs to go behind this. It's not just the gaming. There's a whole industry that has careers available. And that's what we need to consider. And whether we as old people like this or not, it's the reality of our current. Like, this is a real career. And we want to give kids options of when they leave us, what they want to do in a career. So just as we have a football team whose kids are dreaming to go to the NFL one day, we have kids who dream to be part of an esports team and make it big in esports. It's an equivalent for me. So if that helps board members as you're out there talking, hopefully, I don't know that will convince anybody who has an instinctual eye roll, but.
When I met, I think, 2 families when I was knocking on doors this fall, whose children, they mentioned this specifically, their children's interest in gaming. And I was proud to be able to say to them, well, you know, this is something that'll come to our school district before you know it, because we had already talked about it, you know,
Yeah.
several times as a board in the fall. So I thought, you know, that was just, it was great to be able to do that. But my understanding is that there's the back end part of this with programming and creation of the games and stuff like
Marketing,
that. That,
right.
you know, brings a whole nother realm of options to what the kids can do. So
There's wellness coaches now that are being trained and hired for esport athletes. It's a whole thing.
It's amazing.
Did you have other questions, Ms. Bolton?
Just one. I just wanted to clarify what I believe was answered for Ms. Doyle. If I'm remembering correctly, last budget go-around, we did have to put off or defer buying security cameras and upgrades, which I thought was kind of disturbing. So this is going to take us one step closer to where we should be.
Yeah, the security cameras they're aging,
So
It's a
this is
priority.
this is necessary.
yes.
Other questions? Ms. Doyle?
I'm gonna go back to the esports. Can you just define what an esport is? Because I don't understand what an esport is. And so I think it's just beneficial to know.
It's, you should take this, not me.
Old
lady,
It's a competitive sports club playing video games.
Okay, that's what
Yeah.
I thought that was, but it's any video game.
But
It
that-
could be like football on the television.
There's different ones. I mean, they play,
There are different
you know,
leagues.
NFL Madden,
Right,
they
okay.
play, you know,
Fortnite.
Rocket League, which is like the cars that
Yes.
bump into
Yes.
soccer, you know, it's like soccer. So different things like that.
Okay.
So the slightly controversial
They
part to
actually-
this is,
Oh, sorry.
there are aggressive video game leagues.
Mhm.
And so that's the lining of controversy there, but in our eyes, kids are doing it anyway. So let's put them in the same room with a coach and an adult that can, in a healthy way, influence their electronic behaviors.
And the CIAC does,
It's a recognized sport.
is a recognized sport now, so they have 4 or 5 different titles that they play. You know, they're not playing the real first-person shooters, they're playing more of the, you know, action games.
Some leagues in some places also incorporate a very large cybersecurity component into the competition and the development and the back end of what they're doing as well. I'm not sure whether or not Affinity does, but I've seen that done in other places in other states at the same level. It's also very cool. It's a very cool add-on.
Ms. Petrosky?
I was just going to say, as a career path, they have competitions where the winning prize is $1 million.
Mhm.
It's no longer an unusual thing. It is actually a career, which is just the gaming part of it, not the people supporting it. It's unbelievable. And this kind of feeds into where we don't know what careers are going to be available for the kids who are in school today because technology is moving so quickly. So if we're not on board with starting this process, I think our kids are it'll be detrimental to our kids.
Other questions on question number 1? Ms. Petrosky?
I just had one other thing on the mobile desks. If you look on A23, I believe you'll find the costs there.
Other questions on question number 1? Okay, we ready to move on to the next item?
That's Mr.
Yep.
Officer again.
Yep, so next item was in reference to page 3, still on the topic of system improvements. And it was regarding the initial implementation phase for the curricular areas mentioned. and it just asked to give examples of what the budgeted dollars will be used for. So during year 3 of our MPS curriculum revision cycle calendar, which is also known as the initial implementation, staff work collaboratively to write implementation guides in alignment to the newly revised curriculum. These teams also write the guides and identify appropriate resources to support implementation across the district. Full implementation of the curriculum in this phase occurs in all classrooms with the support of the instructional team. And when we talk about the instructional team, we're talking about coaches, specialists, curriculum and department chairs, as well as instructional supervisors. And finally, accompanying assessments are also piloted in this phase. And the budget that supports this phase includes obviously paying teachers for planning time, but also as we select resources and materials for acquisition to support the curriculum in the classroom.
Thank you. Questions on that? Okay, I see none.
I have your next question. It was regarding the new foreign band uniforms, and it asked when were these last replaced and what is the expected lifespan. So the current band uniforms that are at Foreign High School were purchased beginning in the 2006-2007 school year, and the tops were the elements that were purchased and acquired in that 2006-2007 school year, with the pants purchased 1 year later in 2007-2008. Jonathan Law was provided with new uniforms in 2020. The uniforms are utilized for approximately 10 events each school year, and therefore, based on use, we anticipate approximately a 10-year lifespan for the requested uniforms.
Thank you. Any questions on that? Ms. Doral?
How many uniforms approximately would you order?
It's going to be about
Yeah.
100.
About 100.
That's exactly what I was going to say, about 100 uniforms total.
That's what I thought it would be, but just wanted to clarify.
That may be lowballing that estimate.
Well, Foreign has a big program.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions on Ms. Wolf-Whiten?
Not a question, just a comment. Knocking on doors the past 2 political seasons, this has to be one of the top complaints I got from people.
Really?
Yes, from foreign
Well,
parents.
thank goodness it wasn't
So
something
I'm
else.
so happy to see this, and the parents are so passionate about it.
It's
So,
fine, yeah.
Yeah, for their kids.
The
So
berets
thank
are
you.
going.
Huh?
The berets are going.
Oh, that's okay. I think that's okay.
No more feathers.
No more feathers.
More
Oh, you're gonna
feathers.
get, do they want the feathers?
I think it's a thing,
I will
man.
say that I had
Feathers are a
somebody,
thing.
when Jonathan Law got their new uniforms, there was an older person in the community thought it was the most horrific looking, and I said, well, I
The
would.
kids helped pick it
The kids
out.
helped pick it out,
Yeah.
so we get what they
If you look
asked
at
for.
college competitions, I think there's a name for it that I'm failing to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because they're very, very, very different, you know, he couldn't believe they were brand new. I said, they're brand new. You know, he thought they were like ancient, and I said, no, they just got them, so. To each his own, right? Any other questions or comments on this one? Excellent, thank you.
I have the next question. Good evening, everyone. Page 2 of Executive Summary Number 2D, Proposal to Expand Partnership with Bridges to add clinical therapists at Harborside, East Shore, and Foreign. What will be the cost to Milford Public Schools for this? What types of services will these clinicians provide, and how do they differ from certified school counselors? Clinicians provided through Bridges have a psychiatric focus in their training, which is different from school-based counselors. Bridges child clinical staff will develop individualized treatment plans with measurable goals and objectives. Their approach will utilize their training of evidence-based practices that are targeted to address trauma. Effective intervention will be based on baseline and outcome measures to confirm improvement of the presenting symptoms as outlined in the treatment plan. Focused areas for intervention include anxiety, depression, trauma, and conduct issues. Clinicians received extensive specialized training in these areas above and beyond college-level training. At this time, the 5-year grant acquired through Bridges funds clinicians at the Academy, West Shore Middle School, and Law. The additional 3 clinicians for Harborside, East Shore, and Foreign will amount to $150,000. Connecticut school districts are required to ensure all students have access to a comprehensive school counseling program delivered by a certified school counselor, Public Act 1963. The goal of the school counselor is comprehensive in nature and provides a Tier 1 approach to supporting all students. Additionally, small group and one-on-one support is provided. The school counselor's role in realizing student potential for healthy growth is focused on 3 broad areas of academics, career, and social-emotional development. The school counseling program ensures equitable access to services for all students in each school building. Executive Summary Budget Message Item 2D, Additional Clinical Therapists, Grant Attained in Partnership with Bridges Healthcare. What is the amount of this grant obtained to cover West Shore and Jonathan Law? What will be the Board of Education's cost to cover East Shore Middle School, Harborside Middle School, and Foreign? The 5-year grant was obtained by Bridges. The approximate salaries cost for a clinician not included in the grant is $50,000, $150,000 in total.
Thank you. Questions on this? Ms. Preet?
That's 5 years, that 150 will cover all 5 years?
So the grant that's with West Shore Law is for 5 years.
Okay.
For the other schools, there is no grant for that right now.
So it's $50,000 a year for each school.
Okay, and then it would be continuing to keep up with the 3 that are being covered. It would continue in the budget for the next 4 years as well.
Each year, we would have to put it into the budget to make sure it's funded for the following.
Got it, because 3 schools will be covered for over 5 years.
With the grant.
And with the grant, and then we want to anticipate that same amount. That won't change, that'll be 150 for the next.
It can fluctuate.
It can.
It can fluctuate,
So-
but for the next proposed budget, we're asking for $150,000.
How are students, how will students be identified for access to the clinical therapists?
So there's a screening process that that's in place. So the school staff, Milford Public School staff works with the Bridges clinician, and they work together to see which students would benefit from the screening. They go through the screening, and then if the student qualifies, then they reach out to the parents and talk about the process with them.
So is it like a recommendation by staff?
It is, it would.
See a need?
Yes, and the other piece to this is if our families cannot get to, like, say, an office for services, this service is already in the school, so that barrier is already broken down.
So a parent could ask as well for screening?
A parent could ask for a screening, yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, 2 quick questions. The first, I'm very excited to see this as part of the budget, and one of the things I'm very excited about is the increased focus in recent years, kind of cultural wide, where we're decreasing the difference between seeking help when you break a bone in your body and seeking help when you have something you want to talk about or going on in your mind. So very excited about this. And so the 2 questions I guess I have are individuals able to opt in, or do they have to go through the screening to access the services, is the first one?
So through this, you have to go through the screening process to make sure you have some anxiety, depression, trauma, or conduct
Yeah, but
issues.
could an individual like opt into screening, and so you go through that process?
Nominate themselves.
Nominate themselves.
They can
Okay.
reach out to their counselor, correct.
And the other question, I guess, is since it's been in 2 schools already, do we have, and not expecting you to know the numbers now, but curious about the current utilization rates and making sure that this resource is, wondering about the utilization of this resource and also making sure that there's enough resources available, and if it's underutilized or overutilized, and making all those things. So that's I'm not expecting the answer now, but those are one of the things I'm curious about, so thank you.
Do you want that as a follow-up, Mr.? I just want to be clear about the rules. Follow-up?
If that's possible, but yeah, thank you.
When did the pilot start?
So at West Shore and Law, it's just starting this month.
Okay,
So we're
great.
just in the process of
So
it,
there's
but
your
I
answer.
can get numbers for you for the academy.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll get academy numbers.
Ms. Preet?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the population is, but, I've heard recently, that there's a wait list when parents are seeking help to get into Bridges or get their children, but
that could be more from a K-5, I'm not sure. I mean, this is obviously focused on middle and high. Is that something that you're familiar with or that you've heard that parents are struggling to get their kids help? Or is that more of a lower grade, like a K-5?
So I think you might be talking about support outside of school. So Bridges has a healthcare outside of school that families can get access services, and you know, there's many services in Milford and in surrounding towns that there are wait lists. But
Okay.
in the school currently, there's no.
There's not.
No
Will this
wait
help
list.
alleviate that wait list then?
It will help.
And they don't know a percentage until probably they're in it, right? But, okay, so that's a benefit, definitely. Okay, gotcha.
Any other questions on, or comments on question number 4?
I think I have a question.
Ms. Irby, yeah.
It has to do with Christina and Mike's question. So, I don't know Bridges well, I know of it. And if there's the specialist that would be working with us are employees of Bridges, right? So, are there enough specialists out there? As there are a need for teachers? Is there a need for specialists?
So we do have clinicians to fill West Shore and Law, but it's a process. So if it does get approved that we get clinicians at the other schools, I will let Bridges know and they will start their process.
So it's the same hiring situation?
It's the same hiring
They're not holding any
Special,
clinicians?
no, they're not holding any clinicians in their back pocket.
So the additional clinicians that we would have, if we approve this and if the budget's approved, would still be, come through Bridges. They would be cooperating with Bridges. They would be Bridges employees that would come
Yes,
to
they
us?
would,
Okay.
and we just have a partnership.
Okay.
And
All right.
So this would be a contracted service, it would not be an additional FTE,
Okay,
to be clear.
that's good to know. Okay.
not our employees.
Um,
Ms. Doyle has another question.
Ms. Doyle?
Thank you. I'm not positive if it fits here, but it kind of goes in the same vein of mental health. What are the BCBSs used for? Because
Is
it's
there a question on
behavioral,
that?
something.
so the BCBAs, so they work with our students that are in our specialized programs, our behavioral support programs, and sometimes our students that are not in those programs that need additional behavioral support to regulate. So they also look at the student as holistic, like, are they having behaviors due to some sensory needs? Is the academics, we need to put accommodations in for them? So they work indirectly and directly with students and staff, and they are district-wide to look at the student and put in behavioral support plans or some behavioral strategies, as well as doing functional behavioral analysis to kind of see what is the antecedent for the behavior and how are we going to, kind of change that and shape that behavior. They're also, if say there's a crisis in a school, they will be called and they'll come over to support that team in that moment.
So we said on Monday that we have 4.56.
4.6.
And we'd be adding one to 5.6, and it's
Correct.
through the entire district.
Through the entire
So they're not
district.
centralized in one location.
No, so my dream would be like to have like sister schools, so a BCBA is with 2 schools, to kind of really just hone in on that area.
And I believe some other districts may contract this service out. How does it benefit us to having them internally versus contracted out?
So I think having them as our own employees, they become ours, they believe in our core beliefs, our relationship framework, and you can have those collaboration, and I do meet with the BCBAs on a monthly basis, or if they're working for a contracted service, they're only coming in to do a consultation and they leave and they have another employee they have to answer to. So I think that relationship is built stronger when they're your employees, because it's with the administration, the staff, and the families, and the students.
So if they're not technically scheduled to be with a student at one moment, they're in our schools around, observing, watching, interacting with teachers, administrators, and seeing what's going on. And so they can make recommendations of increasing services with Bridges or other community members if they were so inclined.
Correct, because they're a member of the team, so they can speak to, like a Bridges clinician, they speak to the speech therapist. So they're a part of the team, they come to team meetings, and they share their expertise.
Great, thank you.
You're
Well,
welcome.
Ms. Doyle, I think it was Ms. Petrowski Monday night talked about student behaviors. I've talked about how our little people are not okay, particularly our littlest ones. So this gives, the sister school is hopefully a goal that we'll reach in the next couple of years. So these individuals become embedded in the school environment so that if there isn't a formal referral for an individual student, if there are some prickly behaviors in a kindergarten room, that individual can easily be part of that environment and work side by side with the teacher on a holistic approach for classroom. I don't want to say behaviors, but helping kids acclimate to a learning environment, particularly our younger ones. So there's not just the benefit of the one-on-one, putting out the fire of a child who is manifesting in a more aggressive way, but also holistically in a preventative way if these individuals become part of our school culture.
And so these students are all students, regular ed, special education, they do not have to have an IEP to benefit
Right.
from the services of these.
In fact, we actually hopefully avoid
Right.
getting to a PPT if we can intervene early and develop a behavioral plan for that child.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions on this? Very good, thank you. Move on.
So the next question was, please include an estimated cost of any newly implemented state mandates included in this budget, including the right to read legislation and that two delayed mandates from last year relating to menstrual products and HVAC that will need to be addressed in this budget cycle. So referring to the executive summary, page 6, the first question was regarding the Right to Read Act compliance. And the question was, can you please share the new deadline for compliance? Is there any update on what this might cost us in this budget year? So the Center for Literacy and Reading Success at the Connecticut State Department of Education has required that all districts adopt one program from an approved list of vendors or institute a compendium of curriculum resources to be in alignment with the science of reading. The district began its review of the approved programs during the spring of 2023. The potential financial impact of program adoption is on a range, and that ranges from approximately $187,000 if we acquire the instructional resources to fulfill the compendium, up to $1,263,300 if we went with full adoption of one of the approved vendor programs. And legislation requires implementation for us as a district by July of 2025.
And the mandated HVAC requirements will be funded through capital improvement plan funds, totaling approximately $350,000. So those funds will not be appropriated in the board's budget. And then the mandated menstrual products will amount to $30,000.
Has the CIP dollars, have they been approved?
Yes.
Just to clarify on the right to read legislation, so are we including dollars in this budget for the, will it be this budgetary year or implementation, meaning we'll have to, you're planning on it for 25, 26?
So officially, we must implement July 25. We've made some soft decisions about how we'll move forward, but we want to take our time and see what happens at the state level in the event that there may be additional and revised guidance.
Okay.
So we're just taking it slow.
All right, do you anticipate that you might have to find some money in the budget then, the 24,
For
25
24,
budget?
25, no.
Or, okay, all right. Ms. Duro?
For the reading, science of reading legislation, so when you say a compendium of resources that's being used for it, what I understand that to mean is you're taking our curriculum, how we teach reading in Milford, and adopting those resources that we need to use to fit our system.
So originally, Ms. Doyle, the state published a list of 6 approved vendors that we could request from. And those vendors were all-encompassing. It included basically all of what the state mandated as part of the 5 components of the science of reading would be necessary to implement the science of reading in the classroom. Fast forward several months later, recently, right around the time that all of the waiver process was coming to completion, they released a addendum document which identified a compendium of resources. And the compendiums were, basically it was a variety of options. You could choose this or this, and it was designed to give districts the ability to, I don't want to say mix and match, but it had the core reading program elements. It also had connections to phonics as well as some of the phonemic awareness work. So there were a various set of options that districts could pick from that would be in alignment with the science of reading and would augment and support district's current curriculum.
So what I'm hearing you say is that what they are in the compendium is not sufficient enough to support our plan of reading. And so we are kind of have to use these to bolster it. We have to use the compendium and we have to bolster it, and because our program is not sufficient under the eyes of the state.
As Dr. Kataya said, we're currently in the process of examining our program, doing needs assessments, and making sure that we have a program that works best for our students here in Milford.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then, question on the mandated menstrual products. If I remember correctly, there is a education component that is also in this. It's not just supplies.
Yes. That wouldn't be a related cost that would add additionally to the budget. This is more for the actual products and the actual dispensers or cabinet, whichever one per school, based upon school needs, is needed for that school. So it's not for the education component of it.
Okay, and remind me, is it starting in elementary schools or middle schools?
Elementary school as well, yes.
All right, great.
Great.
Well, parent education component to this too.
Yes.
Yes, I thought there was a much more than just sticking things in the
Yes,
bathrooms.
yes. And it's grades 3 through 5, not for the whole elementary school.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll have another conversation about that.
Yes.
Quick question, just for context on the menstrual product stuff. And don't expect you to know now, but I'm trying to calibrate everything. I'm curious what the cost that we annually pay for like toilet paper and bathroom soap and paper towels, because those are all important hygiene pieces, so I'm curious what all those costs are too. Thank you.
Okay, sure, thank you.
Any questions on this, or discussion on this question? Okay, move on. Number 6.
So number 6, security services is listed as a savings area. What was reduced here? And then the sub-question category was what accounts for the decreases in accounts 3305, security services, and 3306, contracted services. So in 23-24, there was a one-time purchase to enhance the alertness system by upgrading the outdoor public address system, which are speakers, at various schools. So this was the reason for the decrease. So it wasn't less services, it was a one-time purchase to enhance our services.
Any questions on that? That was a fairly big expense, right?
Yes.
The alertness? Okay, thank you.
Number 7, contracted services is listed as a savings area. What was reduced here? So these savings were a result of a new copier agreement and the elimination of a one-time fee for the utilization study. As the board is aware, we commissioned a utilization study which was conducted over the summer, and that expense there is no longer needed for this coming year, so that would give us a savings. And we also had a significant savings in our copier machine contract that we negotiated over the summer for this upcoming year.
Thank you. Questions? Okay.
I have number 8. Specialized programming, please outline the differences in services provided, including with whom and where they will work between the new board-certified behavioral specialist, district-wide, pre-K to 12, the expanded Bridges work for clinical specialists, foreign, East Shore, Harborside. The 2 new classrooms for specialized program and behavioral support will provide services to elementary students, location TBD. The 4 FTE school counselors transferring off of ARP grant Elementary school counselors added with the relief funds are currently assigned to JFK, Live Oaks, Mathewson, and Orchard Hills, and will serve students in grades K to 5.
So the school counselors are part of the comprehensive school counseling program?
Correct.
And the 2 new classrooms for the specialized programming, so that would be considered a special education program specifically?
2 special education programs.
Any other questions or discussion on this one? Megan?
Thank you. For these 2 new classrooms for specialized program, I'm assuming that the goal is to internalize some students that we normally would send out placements. Can you get an idea of what number of students could be adequately in a classroom, adequately supported in a classroom, and what that could mean towards savings? I know that's probably more detailed than you could provide at this point.
I can answer part of it. An ideal classroom ranges between 6 to 8 students.
So 6 to 8 students, we could potentially move up towards 16 students at a cost of approximately I think it said $70,000 to $200,000 per student.
For an out-of-district
Placement.
it ranges between $100,000 to $200,000.
Okay, so we could potentially save a decent amount of money with this, depending on what services we can offer and the needs of the district.
So there is savings to have programs in district, to keep your kids in district versus going to out of district, because you're also paying for transportation, which is those private companies, which their costs are much higher than using, internal transportation.
Okay.
So I might have missed the answer to the first part of the question. Is the intent that these 2 programs would service many kids that are placed out of district now?
No, they're in district programs, that our goal is always to keep our students in district.
Right, so
and
you're not looking to, this wouldn't necessarily bring kids back, it will offset potentially sending kids out.
Correct,
Okay.
but we're always looking to bring
Correct.
kids back to
Right.
see if we can have them in their home school.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
On that, is the 6 to 8 for both the specialized program and the behavioral classroom? Are they both in a 6 to 8 range, or does that differ for those 2 programs?
Nope,
Those 2
that would
classes?
be 2 classes. Ideal is 6 to 8, but we do go up to 10 at this time, just because
Okay.
we have that many
Okay.
students who need that support.
Okay.
Any other questions on this one? All right, thank you, we can move on.
Number 9, specialized programming. What is the top line, all-in, budget request for specialized services, and what percentage of the budget does this represent? So as referenced in Dr. Kataya's letter, number 2, the total cost will be $522,603 for specialized services, which includes behavioral support program, specialized support program, additional behavioral support, and additional clinical therapists. This represents 0.005% of the total budget.
That answer the question? Any other discussion?
Maybe, wait a minute. I guess that's the question on here, just to clarify on that, this is the in-district specialized all-in number,
Yes.
the folks who are staying. So this doesn't include the tuition, the transportation, the folks out of district
No.
also. What is that? Not right now, whenever, but that piece of it as well. Just how much in general is spent on those services, both in district and out of district.
Can you be more specific, though? Because
This
specialized programming is a really big category.
Sure, no, absolutely.
So that's why we chose to go with that bullet in my letter. So
Right.
that was a shot in the dark for us, actually. So could you be, what are you looking
Absolutely,
for?
and there may be a clearer way to ask the question that I just don't know. So if there is, please tell me. But it's more thinking of, when we talk about how much we spend on specialized program, we talk about the preference for programming, quality, all of that kind of thing, of keeping students in district. And there's a cost to that that we've outlined here, that you pulled in this, and that's great. There's also the cost for sending the students who we can't accommodate out of the district. What is that cost that we spend as a district on the tuition, on the transportation? Because all of those are broken down across different categories as well, just like this.
So.
Is there a way to
No.
collect
No,
that?
so it's just out of,
Or is that a different way to look
it's
at
out
it?
of district tuition to a private or, non-public school, and then to a public and then private, and then transportation for that. So that's how we separate that
And there's
out.
2 entire lines for those.
Yeah.
So,
On Roman
Right.
numeral 13,
Okay,
there's a breakdown of special education transportation, internal public, private, aides and van drivers, you can see that.
right.
And then tuition, same page at the bottom, all different kinds of tuition, special ed public, special ed non, and then magnet school
Okay,
tuition.
so I can just add all those up.
It's already added for you.
Okay, perfect. But that was the
That's the
number
page.
to go at for that. Okay, cool. Wanted to make sure that included everything and there wasn't something in a different part that came back into that also. Okay,
Yep, not that, and if we think of something, we'll let you know.
okay.
any other questions on number 9? Ms. Doyle?
I'm just gonna add comment to that. I think it's important to separate the 2 different aspects. There's a special ed portion, and then there's the regular education students who are like ROAG tech, the marine sciences tech,
The
all
magnet.
of those, the magnet schools, which are totally different, and which I think that's where the cost of internalizing those programs would be too expensive and impossible to do well. And then also the
Yeah.
aspect of just voice and choice of providing to students in our high schools, those kind of opportunities.
Plus, the magnet option is somewhat mandated
It is.
as school choice.
And you know, the term specialized programming isn't just for students with IEPs. So if we go back to what's under that category, the clinicians out of Bridges is for anybody. You don't have to have an identified disability. School counselors actually is not for just, it's for tier 1, everybody. So I guess that's why we were struggling with specialized programming, and because I use specialized programming, we went to that. So you're meaning special ed.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Terminology.
Yeah.
Updating it every
We'll
time
learn
we
it.
get together. So, yeah.
Any other questions or
Just got one
comments?
comment.
No. Yes, Mr. Kova?
It's, my project engineering brains is the 0.5%, not 0.05.
We actually said that verbally.
It's 0.05 with the budget, but it's 0.5%. I was like, it's like, I really was struggling with that.
Mr. Brennan said that
Last 5
Tom
minutes.
is doing the check.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, no problem. That's weird.
All right, we were ready to go on to number 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have number 10 on Roman numeral page 4, under the first sub-bullet. It says, development of a recruitment plan with action steps that enhance the diversity of our workforce. And the question is, can you discuss the report required by the state and its deadline for submission? Will this require significant resources to comply? So the state requires that all Connecticut school districts develop and implement a plan to increase educator diversity. The plan will be developed by a district team, and a draft is due to the Connecticut State Department of Ed on March 15th of this year for review. The final plan, completed after feedback from the Connecticut State Department of Ed, is due again on May 15th, and districts must begin implementation of the plan on July 1st, 2024. The plan will have a goal in each of the following areas: recruitment, hiring, and retention, along with strategies for the attainment of those goals. The resources to comply with developing the plan are the time and work of our team. The resources to implement the plan will primarily be funds for professional development on implicit bias. In part, the addition of the new Associate Director of TMP, TMP, added in this year's current budget will support this work and limit the need to expend district funds to comply. $72,000 is also included in this budget to participate in the Teacher in Residence program, which will help better diversify our teaching staff.
Do you really think you're going to get the report back in 2 months from the state?
You know, that's what they say, so we're having a little hope there.
It's like the reading waiver.
Yeah, or we'll send it in, it'll be perfect. And
Ms. Doyle?
Thank you. The $72,000 is paid to the schools, not to the individuals, right?
No,
Or the program.
72,000 is made up of, oops, where did it go? The 72,000 is a resident salary of $30,000 each, so 30,000 times 2. And then mentor stipends of $6,000 each, so 6,000 times 2. So the mentor is the actual teacher in the classroom, and the resident is the new teacher learning how to be a teacher.
And then if I remember correctly, there was some discussion of trying to see if there were paras within our school district that were interested in moving into this kind of program.
Yes. Yeah, that part of the TRP plan is to identify people within the district that may be interested in going through the program.
Okay, great, thank you.
So
And
you're
another
still
thing to
working
note,
towards
sorry,
that?
I'm sorry, is that the cost for the TRP also includes other costs, but they are going to be waived this year because the state got a whole bunch of funding through different grants. So it's costing less this year than it did 2 years ago when we participated.
Okay, great, thank you. And then, sorry, does the state help you find the candidates that would
Yes,
be
oh yeah,
beneficial
through
for
the
this?
program, yes. Yeah, we go through an extensive search process with them, interviews, make sure it's a good fit, things like that.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions on this?
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 11?
Yes, number 11. Page 6, second bullet, is there additional information regarding the increase in costs of energy prices starting in January 2025? If not, do you have an ETA on when this might be better known? So we recently entered into a contract, I know this was some discussion earlier on in the year. We recently entered into a contract which will begin in December 2024. Our rates at that time will be approximately 10.8 cents per kilowatt hour, and currently we are paying 6.9 cents per kilowatt hour.
I'm sorry, 6.9 or 6.4?
6.9.
Okay, so it's a typo in here, it says 6.4.
Say
Is that-
6.4?
Ours
four?
says 6 point, yeah.
I apologize, yes, it's 6.4.
Okay.
Okay.
I can just double check that for you. My notes said
It's not that significant, given,
Yeah.
given the
Well,
jumps.
while we move on, it's a nickel, right,
Yes.
Tom?
Yeah.
That .5 represents.
Point hour. Should we go on to the next one while they check, or?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Well, he
Or-
has the next
Yeah, I have
one.
the next
He has
one.
the next
All
two.
right.
So after we're done the next two, then we'll correct that one.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure,
Yes.
Mr. Royal has a question on
Sorry.
number 11. Yep.
I think that's when I'm talking, not doing this. And so, just reviewing it, we have solar panels on all available roofs that are within the district, correct, that are producing energy to offset our costs.
Yes, I believe all, if not all, most, yes.
Okay, so offset the cost of having the solar panels on there or decreasing our costs generally?
Yes.
To
We do-
both.
Yes, to both.
That's the
And
theory.
that's the theory. And then there's also, you know,
Like at your house.
yeah, like at your house, that's. you
That's
know,
the theory.
I will say, I have solar panels on my house, my electric bill is $11.32, so.
Well, it's
nice.
not here.
So, my house is also 62 degrees. So solar panels on that, and then we have the Sprague Energy, we have Central Connecticut and gas, and then we have UI, are the
Yes.
three providers that we use predominantly for energy.
So we use, yes, so we use direct energy for the electric. United Illuminating transports the electric to us.
Okay.
So direct energy actually supplies the energy, and United Illuminating will
So
transport it to us.
it's the same you can do in your home.
Same.
You have the-
Yeah.
You have this, yeah, the transfer fee.
And that's what the consortium does, is find that person to
Yes.
do that from there. Great, and then we don't have any oil heat in the
No.
district.
No.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So is it fair to say that if we didn't have our solar panels, we'd still have the 10.8 cents per kilowatt hour, but we wouldn't be using as many, with our solar panels, we're not using as much electricity.
Yes, yes,
So
Or
our
offsetting.
overall cost would be higher.
yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, quick question. In this, is there a conversation or is there numbers you can find about like the percentage of the energy generated that's renewable is part one, that I expect you have now. And then part two is, I've seen more and more recently that there's new and emerging technology that allows, especially residential, to access geothermal. And curious of when the last time we looked at our facilities for heat pumps and other things based on new tech, because it seems like that could be, it's a capital investment up front, but significantly it seems like it decreases the annualized running cost of those kind of things. So just curious if we can look at those.
Sure. And we do have things like micro generators for some of our buildings, like Parsons and Harborside run off a micro generator. Foreign High School, which is our largest energy user, thank you.
Yeah.
Consumer, thank you. Is actually worked off a micro generator from the wastewater plant. So the energy that's created from there creates an offset to the UI. So we do have certain of those
Awesome. Thank you.
initiatives in place, but definitely something to look for in the future as well.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments on this one? Okay, thank you. Now we can move on. Number 12 is you.
Number 12, 1110, page 10, the admin line, proposed budget is 6.1 million. In the 21-22, the line was 5.4 million. And on page 15, it lists the head count proposed 35.5, and in 21-22, it was 33.5. I'd like to know more about how that line item went up $700K with only 2 more people. So the increase between the 21-22 expended amount and the 24-25 proposed budget consists of contractual step increases for administrators which span 3 fiscal years. Additionally, the board supported a new supervisor for equity and engagement, and there is an accounting shift from 1120 non-certified supervisor, which is -1 FTE in that category, to a 1110 administrator, which is a 1.0 FTE in that category. So that second one there is not an additional FTE. That's just an accounting shift, and it's based off of Mr. Riccitelli being a non-certified supervisor and me being a certified supervisor. So it's just a shift in accounting, not an additional FTE for that one.
Is that clear for everyone? Any questions? Okay.
Great. And question 13, 1110, on page 1, who is included in the all schools line, and what is the policy programmatic impact of change going from 7 FTE to 8 and adding 1 more in central office? So included in the all schools line are the central office instructional supervisors. In 22-23, 0.2 FTE was added for the supervisor of early childhood, and in 23-24, 0.8 FTE was added of the equity and engagement supervisor, which was shifted from the ARP ESSER grant to the general fund. The remaining portions of these 2 FTEs are funded by the grant.
By other grants, right?
By other
grants.
By grants, yes. There's 2 grants specifically.
And there's just a reminder there that the supervisor equity and engagement is related in support of the Board of Ed's equity resolution that was passed in 2020.
Any questions on this one? Ms. Doro?
And the grants are not ARP or ESSER, they're other
Correct.
state
Correct.
grants.
They are not those.
And so they're generally ongoing from the
Yes.
state, not have to generally worry that they're gonna disappear.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments on this one? Okay, thank you.
So Ms. Stewart and I will be presenting question 14, and that's related to account 1111 on page 2. The teacher head count seems to fluctuate by year. Is that only driven by student head counts, channeling, finding staff, or are there other variables that are considered? And this question is for both regular education as well as special education. Regular ed teacher head counts will fluctuate year to year based on the enrollment per grade level in each school, and therefore the number of sections needed per grade, as well as the course offering and enrollments in the middle and high school level.
Special education FTE will increase by 2 since there's a proposal for a behavioral support program and specialized program classroom at the elementary level. The number of special education teachers teaching at each school yearly is based on the number of special education students in a building.
And just to clarify, so for the regular education, the fluctuations are by enrollment based on our class size guidelines, correct?
Yes.
Questions? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have number 15, so this is concerning account 1117. Please give more details of the increase in the budgeted amount for substitute teachers since the pay rate has remained stable. And then we had two similar questions, I'll read them as well. Account 1117, substitute teachers, 23-24 adopted 960,040. 24-25 proposed budget, 1,246,740, increase of 286.7 thousand and 29.86%. Why such a big increase? There are still building substitutes, but the projected lack of interns is concerning and creates an approximate $287,000 increase. And then the last question that are all related, substitutes. Please explain the significant increase in the request for substitutes. How much of it reflects a shift away from interns versus how much reflects an increase in overall demands for substitutes across the district? Okay. So substitutes for the approximately 650 teachers employed in the Milford Public Schools are budgeted for in this account.
Bless you.
Contractually, teachers receive 4 personal days and 15 sick days per year. The 4 personal days are used in that year, while the 15 sick days can carry over into subsequent years. The days taken by teachers vary significantly due to personal life circumstances. Each year, teachers may also require long-term leaves because of pregnancy, life-threatening illnesses, injuries, and family emergencies. The current pay rate for per diem substitute teachers is $140, and this was also the rate last year in 22-23. A long-term sub who works 30 consecutive days in the same assignment is paid at a higher rate of $281.11, which is the equivalent of the lowest contracted salary we have in the teacher contract, so that would be bachelor step 4. This line also includes 2 teachers for our participation in the Teacher in Residence program through CREC, which is a RESC, with the goal to diversify our teaching staff. The only cost that is not a variable is the Teacher in Residence cost, which is $60,000. The number of building subs will go up if building interns cannot be secured. So if we can't get an intern, that other account will go down, and therefore this account will go up because the building subs are paid from the 117 account. We do our best to budget an anticipated amount based on what we think we will need and according to prior years' expended amounts. With the continued shortage of interns due to the decreased amount of students entering the field of education, unfortunately, we anticipate having to add more building subs each year, and that is one reason for the increase. While the increase is significant in year-over-year adopted budget amounts, when you look at the expended amounts, last year's expended budget in this account was $1,382,629, which is greater than the 24-25 requested amount. Year-to-date expenditures in this account demonstrate an anticipated deficit as referenced in the quarterly budget report from Monday evening, January 8th. So it's a little convoluted, but I hope I got a lot of that information in there for you.
What line are the interns paid out of?
They are paid, there's another question on interns.
Oh, okay.
And they are paid 3212.
Okay.
Contracted services, page 13.
Any questions or comments on this number 15? Mr. Smith?
Sorry, quick one, and not just because it's included here in the parentheses, I'm not expecting you to know now, but the idea that, the idea, or the fact that there were fewer students enrolling in education.
Yes.
I would be interested to know what the number of that is, right? Because that obviously indicates there's a decrease in supply of teachers, which then increases demand. So all those are all parts of how we make sure we're competitive when we're trying to attract talent and all those things.
So this is an issue statewide,
Oh,
probably
obviously.
nationwide. I don't know if the universities, I don't know what kind of numbers I can get from them, but they, at least 2 or 3 did express, we try to get interns. We
Yeah.
fight for them.
Yeah.
If they send us a resume, we jump on it quick
Mhm.
and have the principals interview. We have gone from, and I did an analysis of over the years, in 2020/2021, we had 15 interns in the fall and 15 interns in the spring. The interns are a year-long program, but some run from September to June and some run from January to December.
Mhm.
So 15 was the standard for many years.
Mhm.
21/22, we had 11 in the fall and 8 in the spring.
Mm.
So I don't know about that 21/22, some of it might be COVID-related. 22/23, 8 in the fall, 8 in the spring, and 23/24 this year so far, 8 in the fall and 6 in the spring, which just started. Their semester is just starting now. So, when you look at the intern costs, which is an average of about 16,000, if we can't get the interns, because the interns and the building subs both provide the same service and they create the relationships with the students, they're part of the culture and the climate of the building, so it's really just a great program either way. But having a building sub cost about 25,000 compared to 16,000. So that creates a difference. And of course, we would prefer the interns because we want the future. We want future teachers. But if we can't, we'll go the other route. So it's really hard to budget when we're trying to budget in both areas. So, but I will try to see what I can find out from the universities on that.
Thank you. And just a personal side, the interns are, one of the things that I realized the last meeting was I'm older than I thought I was, because Dr. Gatai was referencing things from 20 years ago, and I realized that's when I was in high school, which was an interesting thing. But it was fun because a year or two ago, I happened to reconnect with one of the interns that was at Foreign, who now is in Orange, and we chat, and now again as an adult we're the same age, but in high school there was a vast difference in age.
Yeah.
But the intern program was really, yes, thank you. It's a great program.
Mr. Smith, we're all fighting over the same intern, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Orange is fighting for that intern, West
Mhm.
Haven's fighting for that intern, and the pipeline is drying up. It's a crisis, it's a nationwide crisis.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we're gonna, in fact, I do know, we're not gonna bounce back in the pipeline anytime soon.
Right.
Mhm.
And if you look at the history of education, we go through cycles. We hit a downward spiral of people interested in going to teaching. The pipeline dries up. We are all having now to raise salaries to attract the best.
Mhm.
And then we get a pipeline that fills up again. And it's about every 20-ish years, right?
Mhm.
If you take a look at the life cycle of this financial crisis. So we would prefer interns as well, but we also have highly skilled building subs that they've turned that into a career, right? They've become part of the family. So I don't want to in any way negatively talk about our building subs, because some of them are highly skilled. So I want us to be
Yeah,
careful
exactly.
here
Yeah.
Of course, yes.
that they've provided a great service. But I think that there's a bigger issue here, and that is, and particularly new board members understanding that substitutes is part of our regular operating business. That's it's unlike other institutions. If there is somebody who calls in sick, those 20 kids are showing up anyway.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's one of the few industries that we have to provide a fill-in that may not have the same degree as the person who does it for full-time work. But the reality is, people get sick and they have life emergencies. And what we're finding post-COVID, not just Milford, is it's harder to find substitutes, quality substitutes. We've had to look at increasing pay over the last 3 years exponentially. And it's just, teachers are taking more time off.
Mhm.
It's just happening. There's something about, whether it's post-COVID or the stresses, adults are also impacted, like our little people have been. So this line item feels fat and big, and I just kind of just calling something out that I'm feeling. It may not be right, but substitute line is just a regular way of doing business in education. And there's a lot of research around the number of days of substitutes in a classroom, but we can't help that. Particularly, I think Ms. Kabazna had the great opportunity to share with this board earlier in the year about the great benefit that TMD provides to teachers, to our staff members, on walking them through life's events, like a pregnancy, a wedding, and onboarding your spouse onto health insurance, but also the more difficult, which we are currently dealing with. Staff members who are dealing with life-threatening health issues, and not sure if they can come to work tomorrow, but they were at work today, depending on how they wake up and feel tomorrow morning. And so we provide standby subs, like you wake up tomorrow and you're feeling sick from your treatment, we've got you covered, don't you worry about it. That's the service we provide, and that causes this line at times to be bigger. Because, Mr. Smith, you asked the other day, what does it take for us to attract and retain? And we have found in education that what retains a teacher is not necessarily salary, albeit that helps. It's actually how they're treated in the work environment. That is very high on a teacher's list. And I think providing a teacher a peace of mind when they have to be out for X is part of retention here. So I just wanted to call out the substitute line a little bit.
In terms of the building sub, they have to have a higher level of degrees to be.
They have to have a 4-year degree, which is what our daily substitutes have to have, but we can supplement with people that do not have 4-year degrees as long as we get the waiver from the state. So the building subs have the 4-year degree.
So they're assigned.
We do try to attract, we try to choose people that are going into the field of education, want to be teachers, to try to kind of supplement what the intern program is all about as well.
It's just that it costs more than the intern.
It's actually, the cost is $140 a day, just like a per diem sub, with the guarantee of working every day. So it's 140 times 181 days.
So being a building sub is not giving them the higher salary?
No, and we give them a small amount of time off, sick days and personal days, to make it, attractive.
And just building on what Dr. Kataya was talking about, like, I very much appreciate, and it might be fat, if the budget line item might be fat if you're looking at it as just purely numbers, but you want to make sure that you have the resources to attract and retain those long-term subs. Because while I think it is certainly important for students to develop relationships with the teachers, it's also, I feel like having a building sub is more valuable than having someone who changes day by day. So making sure that you have enough resources to accomplish those goals.
And what you're not seeing in those long-term sub areas is the fact that somebody goes out and has a baby, and they say they're going to be out for 8 weeks, and then it's 12, and then it's like, I can't leave the baby, of course, babies are our future here, so we're good with that. So, it's hard, so a long-term sub that we anticipate might cost X will really cost X plus X plus X. And, even in the case where we had a teacher who was going through a serious illness, cancer, and because of her treatments, we have to make certain decisions along the way. So we decided what was best for her, but more best for the students, was to keep a sub in her room, whether she was there or not, for consistency. So that's not something we would normally do, but we have to look at situations like that and make those calls and do what's best for the students and our staff.
Ms. Mahler?
I think the ideal in substitutes, and we had talked about this a little bit the other night as well, and it makes sense looking at it from the comprehensive perspective that you're taking in the strategic approach with both retention and support for teachers and students and how it benefits everyone. I think is something that's really good here in this room, but it's also going to be a really important point as we leave this room after we have a budget and we move on, because I think it's something that we're going to hear questions about a lot, and it's going to come up a lot because it does stand out as that looks weird. So I think I'm glad that you have explained it as thoroughly as you have yet again here tonight, and I think that's something that we will continue to need to do as we move ahead. So appreciate the education for us as always, but I think it's a very even more important point to continue holding on to as we move next. Thank you.
Other questions or comments on number 15? Ms. Doyle?
Thank you. For the building subs, not the building subs, sorry, long-term substitute teachers, if they do go beyond a certain period, the 30 days, they get paid that. Do benefits kick in at one point? I
No,
can't,
they
no.
don't.
Okay. And then their rate doesn't change again after the 30
If
days?
the teacher comes back and they go to a different assignment, it would change.
They go back. Right. I remember during 2020 or 2021, I think you were experiencing up to 200 apps, like call-outs a day, if that was right?
We were experiencing a lot back then, and COVID was rampant, and the way we addressed it was to we added a lot of building subs that year, more than normal, and then, of course, we had to kind of taper it back. But, the average, I'm trying to think,
It was like 212 absences in one day, was it?
yeah, an average is
We've
usually
net-
less than 100,
Yeah,
around 100.
however, around 100, but we were doubling our
Yep.
absentee rate during
And that
COVID.
became the norm for that
Yeah.
period of time.
Yeah, so we're
Yeah.
back, we would say pre-pandemic levels of about,
Approximately,
give or
yeah.
take 100 a day.
And of course, it varies.
Give or take 100.
Give or take 100.
I'll
play those
odds. Give or take a few between 100.
Sometimes.
Yes, let's not get there again. Yes, that's it.
Other questions? Okay, we can move on.
Great. Ms. Glenn, if I may, can I jump back to question 11? and
Of course.
just provide that
Yep.
clarification? So the 6.4 cents per kilowatt hour, what you have in your document is accurate and correct. When I wrote it down in my notes, I must have wrote 6.9, so the
Or
accurate.
maybe you just
document-
couldn't read your
I
writing.
couldn't read my writing. Getting older as well.
Nice.
So that's
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. And now we can go on to number 16.
Number 16, 11/23, the hourly age dropped from 14 FTE to 3. Is the need gone, or are students serviced by other staff? 3.0 FTE in the 24-25 budget are the in-school suspension monitors at each middle school, 1 per each middle school, 3 total. In 21-22, this account represented the school greeters, which were 8 at the elementary school and 3 at the middle school. In 22-23, these positions joined the secretarial bargaining unit. You will see them listed on page 5 in account 1121.
So that was a shift.
That was it.
Questions? Okay, number 17.
Number 17, account 1127, page 7, overtime salaries. What classifications of employees are getting overtime? I saw the definition on page 10, but if it's possible to display the previous year's expenditures by job classification, that would be much appreciated. So for this one here, any hourly employee is eligible for overtime pay. Some examples of hourly employees are custodians, secretaries, paras, greeters, security guards, IT, van drivers, etc. I don't have a breakdown of last year's.
Okay.
You can get that to you.
Questions?
I don't want to, we may not be able, I don't want to commit to something, hold on.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to have to look, see if we can break that down by
Yeah, is there a
category.
pen for that question, like a clarification, something that we can?
That's, so I don't just say, we mostly see custodians in overtime pay.
Yes.
Like, that isn't like equal distribution across all that are listed. It's mostly custodians because on a morning like Monday, or even this morning, we're calling them in early. And that's overtime to make sure that all of our sidewalks, parking lots are safe.
Another example of that would be if a school has a number of illness, like things going around, we would engage in a deep cleaning for that school, whether at night or over the weekend, to make sure that it's ready for our students to come back. So there's a number of reasons that we would.
I think security guards fall into a little bit more overtime than usual compared to other categories because of events. Sometimes even our Board of Ed, we've had to, in the past. Secretaries, paras, greeters, IT usually have to have pre-approval, all of them have to have pre-approval, but there's like special circumstances if the secretary had to stay overtime. But I think I would clump in the custodians and security guards are probably the two categories that are the larger.
So is that sufficient?
Just one question. I know at the state level, there's challenges with the overtime because they have staffing issues. And so I guess in our experience, given that there's a lot of through line of the challenges with the supply issue and staffing concerns, the current overtime budget is within the bounds of normal, where it's not, we don't have an increased overtime budget because we have staffing challenges. Is that a fair, it's just a normal?
I would say that would be
Normal
fair.
business operation.
Great.
If you look
Thank
at
you.
21,
Custodian side, we have
22.
like temporary custodians who help fill in some of the shifts, so
Yeah.
we actually have that role, but.
And for paras, we wouldn't be giving just a person overtime that's not
Yeah.
a regular employee. So most of these are regular employees as
Yeah.
overtime.
Yeah.
So if you look at
Based on
21,
student need
22,
during the day.
Yeah.
where it's well over $200,000, $240,000 higher, that was the COVID year, so that was, you
Yeah.
know,
That was
our
the
Yeah.
custodian.
custodians doing all that extra.
That makes total sense. I was just,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for clarifying and make sure I'm understanding it.
Great.
So I appreciate not having the same problems that the state does.
All right, we ready to move on, or is there additional questions or comments on number 17?
Question.
Yes, Ms. Irby?
So these, because we just got off of the substitute question, things like paras don't get substitutes, and not things, people who are paras, they don't get substitutes or security guards, they just.
There are para subs.
Yes, there are para-subs, there are sub-security guards, sub-greeters.
Subgrades.
But they don't
Yeah.
fall into the substitute category.
No.
How are they
No,
not?
because that's sub-teachers.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
sub teachers,
Yeah.
they're just
Sure.
different
Yeah.
section.
Is there a different line for them?
Yes, but we'll get back to you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Number
I
8.
think some of these answers would come more naturally at 9 o'clock in the morning. So if I could call that out for a minute. It's not that we don't know the answer, I think it's like way back there. So our apologies.
Number 18.
So, account number 18, account 1130, page 8. How many retirements are we budgeting for in this 24-25 request? And then an additional question that is being grouped in this area is page 8, accounts 1130, retirements. How many retirees are included in the budgeted amount of $825K? We have budgeted for 15 retirements.
Can you, maybe I should have asked, I think I asked part of this question. Just for the benefit of new board members, how we have routinely handled the retiree accounts. I mean, in the past, we go by the average, correct? Some
Yes.
years it's higher, some years it's lower. And what
Yes.
is the budgetary impact on the differences, the fluctuations? So we're budgeting for 15. If we have more retirees, the account goes.
So if we have more
Spend more.
retirees than that, then that account will be in a deficit. If we have less than that, then that account will have a surplus.
Very good. Any questions on that?
Question
Yes, Ms. Preet.
relating to that. Do we make any number for possible resignations? And how has that worked over the summer where someone
No,
doesn't
because
come
that
back?
wouldn't factor into this account
Okay.
because this is for
It would just take the
benefits.
place.
Well, the retirements
Just
is
the
what they get when they
retirements is
retire,
for-
their severance,
Oh, they're
their.
contractual.
their-
It's
They're
contractual
ongoing,
severance.
okay, got it,
their-
okay.
It's their contractual payout when they retire, so, you know, any
Sick time.
sick time that they haven't used, whatever their contract
Okay,
Based on
allows
that.
for.
so not related, okay.
Not related to.
Mr.
I was just
Fermender?
wondering how we're doing this year. Do you have any indication of who may be retiring, how many people may be retiring?
We do.
Well, we're up to
I
3.
think we have 3 right
We're
now.
up to 4, now we're down to 3. It's always another guessing game.
Right.
We get word of people that may, but then they don't have to, so we usually do hover right around the amount that we budget for, plus or minus maybe 3 or 4, so it's usually pretty accurate.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this line? Okay, sorry, number 19. Yeah?
Number 19, salaries and referencing executive summary page 17, enrollment and staffing projected 24-25. The projected non-classroom regular ed teacher FTE for 24-25 is, and then there's a chart in there. What is the impact of scaling back the instructional coaches from 4 per elementary to 2 per elementary? In asking this, I have rewatched 12-8 Board of Ed meeting regarding instructional highlight, K-12 English Language Arts and Literacy, reviewed presentation of the 4/17/23 meeting regarding elementary instructional coaches. This would reduce staffing by 16 FTEs. In the teacher's contract, the reduction of FTEs is based on seniority and certifications. Therefore, in most situations, these more senior teachers will bump less senior teachers, which are lower salaries. The savings is then based on entry-level salaries. Follow-up question to that is, also, in the Board of Ed proposed budget potential reductions dated March 27, 2023, there was a line item, eliminate one elementary instructional coach per school. At the time, this would have been 8 FTEs at $44,550 each for a savings of $356,400. I would like to understand the dollar impact of going from 4 to 2. The number of $44,550 seems low, as some names listed in the Board of Ed staff directory appear to be those of some tenured teachers. Also in Appendix E, page A14, there is nothing less than a $52,000 salary. As explained during the budget meetings last spring, elimination of teaching staff is based on seniority and certification. Additionally, we discussed how payroll cycles would impact this reduction. Currently employed teachers would get paid through the summer because paychecks are spread out over summer months. Therefore, next year's savings is based on 10 months of salary, hence the $44,550 estimated savings per FTE. It's a lot.
What is the average salary that we use now when we talk about FTE? It used to be like 60.
Is it 65?
I think that's what they use. That's what Terry typically uses.
We believe it's 65.
Yeah. And the lowest salary is 52,005 or something like that, but.
But we're not always hiring
Correct.
at bottom
Right,
step.
exactly.
Right,
Right.
yep.
Yep.
Any questions on this? So this second part of this question was strictly the payroll cycle. I remember that now, that discussion last year,
Yes.
because it was less than a full year.
Yeah.
Any questions on this? Ms. Preet?
So in theory, the reduction of the instructional coaches in the 8 elementary schools could be, what number could be used to multiply by, if they went from 4 to 2, by 16? Should the 65 be used? Should 44 be used? Should 52 be used?
Not 65.
Okay.
I would, if you're doing the math, I would use 44,550.
44, okay.
And why is that?
Because that's the number we published in the spring. If you're asking me to do the homework now, I'd have to go back to the
No,
drawing
but I
board.
think the question is if we were to eliminate 16 instructional coaches for the 24-25 school year, what would the budget impact be? Is that the question?
She's asking what salary should she use, 65 or 44.5?
Right. Okay.
And that would be the reduction. 44 times 16 would be the dollar reduction.
44,550 times 16.
Okay.
Yep. And I just want to preface it by, we only answered this question through a budgetary lens. The word impact
Right, so-
is much bigger than that answer we just gave you. Okay?
Any other questions? Okay. Number 20.
Number 20, how much of the salaries increase is mandated by the new union contracts? So the Board of Ed, the Board of Education approved contractual increases are listed below. Mrs. Glenn, would you like me to read through each of those? Or?
No, I think we can do that. Does that answer the question? I don't know if anybody, okay. Move on to number 21.
Wendy, is that you?
Ms. Capazzi?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was writing through my notes here. Okay, so this is page 13, account 3212. This is the interns contracted services. Please explain the decrease in sub-teaching services / teaching interns. What is that? There is no supporting narrative given. Please explain the decrease. We talked about this a little bit, but we have experienced a steady decrease in the number of interns available to us each year. We host interns from the following universities when available: Fairfield University, Sacred Heart University, Quinnipiac University, Southern Connecticut State University, and the University of Bridgeport. We also used to use the University of New Haven up until such time that they closed down their education program due to lack of enrollment and interest. All universities are experiencing large decreases in enrollment in their education prep programs, thus making the number of available interns decrease as well. When the number of interns decreases, the 3212 account will be overfunded, and the teacher subs and building subs will be used instead, resulting in more money being charged to the 1117 substitute teacher account.
So basically, you're anticipating fewer interns, thus the reduction in the
Yes, we
cost.
did, again, because we're positive and thinking positive, we budgeted for 12, but that, instead of 15, but that number may be a little lofty and we may be a little overfunded there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions on number 21? Okay, seeing none, we can move on.
Number 22, page 16, account 4100. Is there an explanation of why the electrical cost from foreign was $156,000 and in 22-23 it jumped to $269,000? And we are at $262,000 now. So this question actually dovetails into one of the questions from earlier that I was explaining. In 21-22, the city installed a new micro generator, which is an energy source, which resulted in a change in the method of billing. The timing of this change resulted in an anomaly of the billing between the city and the Board of Ed, which crossed fiscal years. So that happened to be just an anomaly with the billing based off of that micro generator that went in at the wastewater treatment. It's a timing issue. But as you can see with the rest of the years, and I went back 1 year further for you so that you could see that this is historically an average of what that would cost us.
So in 21-22, it was artificially low?
Artificially low, yes.
Any questions on this? Mr. Smith?
Yeah, one question, I guess, and I really appreciate that, that makes a whole bunch of sense. I guess the only follow-up is, obviously they're different, generally like high school is equivalent to high school, so is there an easy explanation why foreign is $100,000 more in energy cost than, is it the pool, the planetarium, or just the facility, or?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a larger facility. There's
It's fully
more
air
square
conditioned
footage.
too.
There's
It's
air
fully air
conditioning,
conditioned.
so there's
Okay.
a bunch of other costs. The pool, which is running,
Mhm.
as for any of us that have a pool at home, we know how much those costs can
Yeah.
be. There's a number of factors such as that would cause it to be extra. And that was one of the reasons why we wanted to help offset those costs by going with the micro generator for that school.
Perfect.
It is our largest.
Have you walked through both buildings?
I've walked through foreign and law a long time ago.
Okay, we'll be sure that that changes.
Yeah, looking
We'd be
forward to that.
very happy to take the
Very, very
recommendation to
look-
do that.
We're actually gonna make
Love
a
it.
formal, we'll work through Ms. Glenn on that.
Okay.
Yes,
It's actually unrelated, but the planetarium, do we put that out to other school districts to come and have for programs and charge, for?
No, we do not. And
Okay.
I
Is
think
that an opportunity? I think I've always had in my mind.
could be an opportunity. Part of my concern with that would be that equipment's very expensive, so I'd be concerned with renting it out as we would a soccer field or something of that
Right.
nature, because the equipment itself, you need to be trained to
Right.
utilize.
You
and-
need to come
and I
with
would-
staff.
And you have to have appropriate staff to do that, and I know we just invested in upgrading our
Right.
facilities just
That's-
in the past couple of years, so I would be a little more protective.
The staff that we have now, it would be an incremental for them, to pay them to run the program. It might be, a
Certainly,
wash to have that trained staff run it versus what we could max charge a school district and within a half hour of, and think of all the schools that could come for a 45-minute program.
Yep.
I mean, I don't even know what the going rate is to charge a school district to use, to come for a field trip, but it might be that in order to pay the staff to run it, it might not be something It's just a valuable resource, it's such a
yeah,
valuable resource,
definitely something to
right?
think about, and it is utilized when we bring
Classes.
the elementary school students, middle
Yep.
school, when we bring other students there.
Yep.
And if, the Milford Education Foundation
Mhm,
runs an
yep.
evening under the
Under the
stars
stars,
there, which
yep.
is a great event, and, so we do use that, but we like to use our staff to run it,
Right,
as you're
right.
mentioning.
Okay.
I think I'd be open to that for after-school hours. I don't know that
After-school,
I'd
okay.
want all other school districts walking into foreign, we've got kids,
Okay,
and we'd have to pay our certified teacher full-time salary
Right.
to do that, and that will be incumbent on interest. And could we make up for that salary?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
it's
know.
such a hidden gem though, that's the only thing I've always thought.
Well, it's a gem for us.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to share it. Okay, that's all.
Is there another planetarium in the state of Connecticut?
There's one
summer?
more, I think.
There's like one more, yeah.
But we do have it opened up for after-school hours to be less selfish. That was just kidding, but.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Questions, other questions? Okay, we go on to number 23.
Great. 23. If possible, Ms. Glenn, we would like to address this question tomorrow. I believe that a previous year's building and grounds project was linked into there.
Oh, sure.
So I don't think that's going to do us any good at tonight's meeting.
Right,
So
okay, yep.
We will update the current one for you, and we will get back to you on tomorrow
Alrighty.
for that.
I have question number 24, Ms. Glennon, if you're ready for that.
Sure.
It refers to page 23 of the budget document, account 5106, titled Field Trips. And it asks, can you add some detail as to why the expense is growing by 31%, or roughly $25,000? Does it include anticipated fuel cost increases? As the district continues to build its curriculum for not only core but also elective courses across the disciplines, we continue to explore opportunities to connect our learners with experiential learning experiences that are authentic. For example, as our fine and performing arts programs evolve to incorporate more voice and choice, there are additional experiences for our choir, band, and strings students to participate in events such as the MIOSM concerts, which is the Music in Our Schools Month, as well as symposiums and festivals through the University of Connecticut and Sacred Heart. On the same note, as we continue to perform needs assessments and reflect on our growing career and technical education programs, our career pathways, we've created intentional opportunities for students to engage in job-embedded, industry-related experiential learning through programs such as this year, we're looking at the Connecticut Manufacturing Roadshow, as well as work with the Milford Vascular Institute.
Questions on this? Ms. Doyle?
How is the third grade trip to
Come on, you can do it.
end of Milford Point Road, but whatever.
Audubon.
Audubon, thank you.
Yes, that is still part of that particular
great,
figure
yes.
with field
It's
trips,
been,
yes.
because I know it was a small portion, now it's been expanded to the entire district. and
All third grade now.
All third grade, okay, great.
Yeah, and then the information that I provided to the board here was solely reflective on increased opportunities. So I didn't, as Ms. Doyle mentioned, things that we've typically had year to year. I didn't really dig into those. I tried to give you opportunities where we're looking to expand across the disciplines.
Yes.
And so this is, sorry, it is getting late. So the first portion, I would say, no, it's not entirely broken down into middle school, elementary, with more of the high school reflecting in the career and technical education programs, because we've talked about kind of incorporating more activities within the district for younger students to internships, career pathways, and that kind of aspects as well.
Yeah. And there is, obviously science. We've connected with some of the science fairs, Science Olympiad, those things around the state as well that can actually transcend down into the middle school level as well. So the field trip line does include obviously experiences at the elementary level, but also middle as well as high school. So it's not just a high school related.
Does that include the Model UN line as well?
So the Model UN line, I'll have to get specifics for you, but there is transportation costs for all of the students from Law and Foreign to come to Parsons.
Okay.
It's a pretty minimal cost for.
Right, because that would be considered a field trip.
Correct.
Because I know at some point they went to New York City, and
So we've done New Haven, New York City, and now Parsons. And in order to ensure access to the Model UN experience for all students, not just for students who could afford that, we made the decision to keep it to New Haven and Parsons. So I'm not sure that we'll do Manhattan much more. But it's a very similar and equally meaningful
if I remember correctly, one of the Model UN trips happened over COVID, and there was lots of, right at the beginning of COVID, not
At the
during COVID.
very beginning of COVID, it was the New Haven one, I think, and was at Yale. And they were going back and forth whether to, yeah, good memory.
Yeah. I remember my niece being stuck in the hotel and.
Yeah. That wasn't fun. We really didn't know what we were doing at that point in COVID.
No, I don't think anyone did, so, but yes, thank you.
Any other questions on number 24? Okay, 25?
Okay, I have question number 25. So page Roman numeral 13 and 24, account 5401, telecommunications. Please discuss the additional cost to increase this by 20%, approximately $50,000. The additional costs associated with telecommunications are wireless hotspots, which came off of the Emergency Connectivity Fund grant. There are also some phone lines that still need to be converted to VoIP/cell service, such as elevators, area of refuge, and fire security systems.
Does that answer the question? Any other comments or questions on it? Okay, I'm going to stop us for a minute. It's almost 9 o'clock. So we have some outstanding questions on our list. Not a ton of them, but I think a few of them could have some longer discussion. We have some questions for clarification that came up tonight, and I think there's a couple of questions that came in that haven't been addressed yet. Do we want to stop?
Yes.
Yes?
Sorry.
I'd like to
agree, stop.
Show of hands for stopping now and coming in tomorrow.
I'm coming in tomorrow anyway.
This is true, well, it's either that or
Even if we get through all this, there are outstanding questions for
we still have to come
tomorrow.
back to Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
Potentially, but.
Gotcha.
Ms. Glennon, can we just summarize what questions we grabbed tonight? But I also want to make sure I know what additional questions are not on this list that you sent to us.
Well, I know, I think there's a couple that I haven't actually.
Okay,
They
good.
came in very late and I haven't actually sent them to you.
All right, I just want to make sure I didn't miss that email.
No,
So
okay.
what we heard in addition this evening is utilization of the clinician at the academy. If we can get there any information quickly on that, otherwise it'll be next week. The cost of toilet paper, paper towels, and tissues, which I think we have a fast answer for that. We'll make you wait till tomorrow night on that. Anticipation, I know. You gave us a tip to look into the percent of energy that is renewable and look into geothermal equipment. Is that an answer for tomorrow?
Generally,
Okay. Not incumbent on making your budget decision.
not this time.
Okay, we'll get back to you. And
So that would be good, okay, answered like in a Friday update?
Yeah.
we'll make more formal the mobile desk cost. We'll just throw it into this, even though it's on that page. We'll make it part of this document. And we will provide you with an accurate 24-25 building and grounds projects list that are comprehensive, that were not included in the proposed budget. Was there anything that we missed?
No, and then I will send you those final, I think there's one or two.
And depending on the amount of research on that, it'll either be tomorrow night or
Correct.
Wednesday.
Right.
Okay. And if we have any follow-up questions based on tonight, we should
Yes,
send
please
to
send
you.
them to me tonight if you can, so I can get them to her. So think on your way home, no, you guys.
Talk them into your phone, don't miss.
So we'll pick up at educational supplies, 6,000 tomorrow. Okay? May I have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, there's a hand to
Oh, I'm
adjourn.
sorry. Ms. Doyle?
I can tell you the question I have right now. Can you give us an update on preschool, or not preschool, kindergarten? what has been going on with the numbers as of now, that
We
we're
will.
into January.
Good question. We'll get you that info.
Would you like to know my question too?
Yeah, come on.
So-
Anybody else? Sorry. This is exactly how I wanted to end the night.
So I just think, so in response to Ms. Preet's question about the cost of eliminating some of our instructional, what's the second word?
Coaches.
Coaches, thank you so much. You had said, Dr. Katai, that the impact of eliminating them would be much larger than the number we gave you. I just think it would be important to follow up and just give an explanation of what that impact would be.
I would second that same question. Similarly, for those of us who were not around for that conversation previously, a little bit more background into what is happening there would be appreciated at this
What do you
time.
mean by
So
what is happening there?
So beyond money,
The
what the
reductions,
impact would be
the
beyond money.
impact beyond money, the decision, all of that would be
So that
helpful
could,
at
that could
this
take a
time.
little bit of time, so we're just,
Okay.
you
We
can
got
ask
three
that.
more, we got 3 more days.
You know, we can try to condense what we, I mean, we've talked about it over the course of several meetings in the last 2 years, and I think, you know, I have provided everybody with some homework where you could look at the past presentations, but I think it would, you know, behoove us to have a little bit of a conversation about it as well. So, I mean, we typically don't go
So
into the
can I-
programming aspects of things so much during budget, but if it's something that is
can I
of
come back
interest.
maybe Wednesday with that, or do you want that tomorrow night?
Wednesday would probably be okay, be okay. if you do.
Let's do it tomorrow.
Let's do it right now, Scott.
All right, we
Can
got
we get a
it.
short version tomorrow, just the slight, just so we know if there's going to be follow-up questions potentially to what may come longer.
Only if I feel like it allows you a fair opportunity to think through that, because I understand it could sway you into supporting a cut.
Yep.
So do I want to give it a 5-minute shot? No, I want to give it a full I mean, so I don't know if I'll give you an abbreviated version tomorrow night, because I don't want to endanger.
I actually appreciate that very much. I would be happy to wait until Wednesday for the fuller
It's a
version.
deeply rooted approach to improvement that we're about to eradicate because of a budget cut. It's like closing a school.
Yep.
Because we want to save $1.8 million, and it kind of gets me aggravated. So I think I'll stop talking and say we'll talk again Wednesday on that
I think
topic.
that's an excellent decision, and I look forward to it very much.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to public comment. Are there members of the audience that would like to make public comment this evening?
Oh, she wants, come on.
Into an awful lot more detail than I ever.
Then I'll forego the public comment, that's an informal comment. I'll forego the public comment statement this evening then, and entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second by Mr. Fermender. Is there anybody opposed to adjourning at 9:05? Then we are adjourned, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.